Welcome to describing scatterplots. So the general idea here, just like with histograms and dot plots, we want to have a way to be able to describe the general pattern of a scatterplot. So the idea is we want to describe the general pattern of a scatterplot. So we have, when we do our description, we'll have our pattern, and then we'll have our exceptions to the pattern. For histograms, we did shape, center, and spread. When it comes to scatter plots, we will have form, strength, and direction. And we will once again call the exceptions to the pattern outliers. So first up, we're going to look at form. Form is essentially the shape of your scatter plot. So the shape the dots make. We will be focusing on linear scatter plots. So the dots don't have to be a perfect line, but the overall trend, the pattern here seems to more or less fit a line. So this is referred to as linear. Again, it's nowhere near perfect. It's not an exact line, but the general pattern, the points seem to follow along a line more or less. So the points follow along a line. Then the other ones we'll just classify as nonlinear. And those are often curved. So in this case, the dots start off kind of looking like a line, but then they curve back down. Right? So this is nonlinear. It's curved. So the form is sort of the overall shape pattern that the dots seem to make. Next, we have strength. The strength refers to how well the dots fit the form, how well the dots fit that shape. So I'm just going to do a bunch of linear scatter plots, and we'll go from sort of weak to strong. So a very weak scatter plot we can't really see a specific pattern to it. So the dots are kind of scattered just all over the place. The pattern is not obvious at all. A very strong scatter plot, the pattern is exact, or as very close to exact. So this is a very strong scatter plot. That linear form is very obvious. And then we have sort of in the middle, here, it's not a precise line by any means. We've got some width to that band, but it's very clear what the pattern is and that it's kind of following around a line. So we can fit our scatter plot kind of in a band that follows along a line. Seems to kind of follow along. Oops. There we go. It seems to kind of follow along a line, right? And then if we bring the dots a little closer, right, there's still a fairly clear pattern, and now that band that they fit is more narrow. So a very weak, the band that they run along is very wide. And then as it gets stronger, the band gets narrower and narrower and narrower until it essentially becomes a line. The direction, focusing now on linear again, we're going to use direction essentially the same way we refer to slope. So we'll have a positive correlation or a positive direction. For a positive direction, the line has a positive slope. So the line in the background has a positive slope. And basically small horizontal coordinates are paired with small vertical coordinates, and large horizontal coordinates are paired with large vertical coordinates. And then negative will go the other direction. So again, the line in the background has a negative slope, it's going down. So our direction, we can have a positive relationship or a negative relationship. And then for our exceptions to the pattern, we have outliers. So an outlier is a point that does not fit the pattern. So points that do not fit the pattern. So unlike with dot plots, where it was a point that was very far from the rest of the data, with scatter plots, it's okay to have a point far from the rest of the data. The question is, how far does it fall from the pattern? So for example, if we have this dot plot here, if we look at our overall pattern, here's our, oops, should have been a highlighter. Here's our overall band, right? And if we extend that, that dot that's very high up still fits the pattern. So note this dot here still fits the pattern. So it's not an outlier. On the other hand, this dot down at the bottom is far away from the pattern, right? It has nothing to do with the pattern essentially. So it's far from the pattern. So we consider it to be an outlier. There is a specific definition for how we can calculate outliers from scatter plots, just like how we could calculate outliers based off our 5-number summary. However, in this class, you are not responsible for that. So for this class, it'll just be a point that clearly does not fit the pattern is considered to be an outlier. All right, that's the basics for describing scatter plots.